I've always loved music, and music just stuck in my head. Not playing music, but listening to music and absorbing music. A guy opened a store in Oakland that most people don't know about. It was called the Doodah Shop. And he sold used books and records, a lot of science fiction, and just a couple of racks of records. And I used to go in there all the time. And then all of a sudden, my buddy owned a bar, and he had a storeroom upstairs. And he said, "Jerry, you want that storeroom? You can have for $75 a week." That was in 1976. Me and my partner, we were both mailmen. We delivered mail for a living. And he worked for a record promoter, going around to all the record marts, giving them free records. So between him, I threw my collection in, and his promos. We put a sign out, "We buy records." That was in 1976. And that's how this monster became, that's how we started. That was 30 years ago. There's always going to be 1% of people who, I call it 1% factor. I don't care if 99% of the people in the world don't have a turntable in their house. That 1% of people is loyal to records. That's what they want. If they have a choice between a record and a CD, they'll pick the record every time. As long as I got that to work with, a guy like me can make a living. Over the years, you learn some things. It's like you learn never to expect, never be surprised by anything that anybody likes just because they're young, old, white, black, rich, poor. When you're talking about music, music is a separate language to me. My taste has always been so very eclectic that, like I got a box of Yugoslavian records. I never listen to Yugoslavian music, but I'll listen to 2 or 3 of them records before I put them out. Right. Then I can know what Yugoslavian music, I have a feel for it, Mm-hmm. So that's why this place is so different than any other place, because this room we're sitting in, there's music from all over the world here. I sell very little of this, but I don't mind having it around, One day, we opened up, and it was like 10:30 in the morning, and there was nobody in the store, and all of a sudden, there was 7 guys. They came in, and they all had a little record player under their arm, and they were all dressed completely hip-hop, with everything, And all of a sudden, one went to the jazz, one went to the rock, one went to the children's, one went to the easy listening, one went here. They went to different places in the store, and then right behind them comes a little guy talking on the phone. And so while I was standing there, I just up front like I'm always at, and this guy on the phone, he's walking up and down the aisles for 2, 3, 4 hours, however long they were here. Yeah. He never got off that phone, but he wasn't looking at records. He had these 6 guys out there. Now, when they left, they stayed about 5 hours. And when they left, they spent over $1,000 on some of the most, I could have kissed them all. That's how much I was so happy to see these records going. There was not a hit record or not a sellable record. It was all just sounds and sound effects and children's records and weird jazz and oceans and stuff. So someone walks in and they point to the guy on the phone, and he did look familiar, and they say, "Is that who I think it is?" I says, "We don't know. He looks familiar to us. Who is it?" It was, what's his name? DJ Jazzy Jeff. And then they just left. It was like a cloud of dust, and they were gone, He said thanks, and he paid $100 bills, and they left, So that was a few years back now, but that was I said, man, I hope they come back in the fall or something, do it again. Right. I don't know if you've been seeing what's going on in this country, but money don't mean much anymore, unless you have $50 million. But if you have $50,000, you might as well have $5,000 or $500,000. It doesn't mean much. It'll get your car and a house. That's about it, maybe some nice clothes. So, on the other hand, I have 1 million records. I know because we counted them over the winter. Right here, not even count what I got in my warehouse. There's 1 million records. I just wonder how many people in the whole world, every country counted, I wonder how many people own 1 million records themselves, can say, I own 1 million records. Mm-hmm. You know what? Ain't too many. I'll bet you it's less than 50, because I know what's out there. So what I'm trying to say is, as long as I got enough to eat, money to eat, and put a roof over my head, I think I'd rather own the records than the money that someone would want to give me for them, because it ain't enough. I know a record person when I meet one. I just can tell what they are. And that's the kind of guys that I get along with the best in life are guys that like records for some reason.